welcome to Talk of the Town. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Karen Buechs. I'm the host and producer of the show. I haven't been here for about a month, but you've seen some good shows on replay. I have a great guest tonight. He laughs. I know his sense of humor. And we're good friends. Please welcome former selectman Harry Helm.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Harry, this will probably be the last time.
That's what I'm calling it. The last hurrah.
The last hurrah.
The last opportunity to cause trouble.
Yeah. Let's go this way first. You really gave service to the town for many, many years, not just as a selectman.
Well, I was first on the finance committee, as you are aware.
Yeah.
And that was for about 8 years.
Yeah.
And then 3 years on the select board. So it's been 10 years.
And you were thinking of running for the planning board.
I was thinking of running for the planning board, but then I decided to move.
Yeah.
No, actually, it just sort of happened.
Yeah.
I had pulled papers, and I'd actually returned papers for the planning board. And then this opportunity down in Maryland occurred, and I have a lot of, my husband Tom and I have a lot of family down there and a lot of friends down there. And it offers me the opportunity to do a couple things with my life in my last 30 years. This all kind of started in December when I hit 65, and I had kind of an epiphany. The men and women of my family tend to live a little bit over about 95, a little bit older than that, but they make it to 95 before they lose their marbles. So I realized at 65, I have 30 years left of my life.
Yeah. And
it wasn't like one of those, oh my God, a hand-wringing moment. It was, I have 1/3 of my life left, a full 1/3 of my life, and what am I going to do with it? Okay. The last time this sort of thing happened to me with the what are you going to do now was when I decided to leave my job in publishing and move here to Plymouth to the beach.
Right.
Okay, so it's not unknown for me to make major life changes that basically are kind of like left turns. And that happen somewhat suddenly. They appear sudden, but there's usually a lot more background that I don't talk to people about that come to fruition. So the town that I'm moving to has a small college, a very well-known small college in it, and that will offer me the ability to go back and study writing. I was a creative writing major in college, and I made a great career in New York in book publishing, telling writers how to write, but not writing myself. I was really good at telling other people what to do, but I wasn't doing it myself. But it's always something that I've wanted to do. And I knew that if I hit 95 and it were my last moments and I had not seriously put an effort to writing, seriously put an effort to it, I would be very disappointed. And I don't want to be disappointed when things are winding down. The other thing is, after college, I spent 3 years apprenticing at probably the largest, at the time, the largest stained glass studio in the United States, out in Chicago. And I learned amazing, incredible things. Not making sun catchers and things like that, but church installations. Beveled, kiln firing painted glass. Something called dalle de verre, which is French for slab glass, which I won't try to explain, but it's a very interesting combination of epoxy and chunks of glass. So, I learned some really high-level stuff, plus restoration. of like Lafarge windows, Tiffany windows, things like that.
Well, does this new house have a barn or anything?
Yes, it does.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Yes,
that.
it does. And that's where that part. So these two things are very important that I explore them. I've always wanted to have a studio, not a retail, not teaching, but a
Right.
studio where I could explore
Your
my
passions.
thoughts
Yeah.
on it. So yes.
I love
Okay.
that.
It's more of a garage than a barn, but
fine.
that's where it's going to house it. We're already making plans to, put solar on it with a battery backup so that, it's, kind of a ecological sort of thing. So that's kind of where this all came from. Family, friends, kind of doing a couple things differently.
What did Tom say?
Tom was really surprised. The reason we were looking was we were thinking about what are we going to do in our old age when the winter winds come to Manomet Point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And where would we go? Whether we, rented or whatever. So we started looking around, and we started looking really, really far south. We started looking in Mexico.
Oh, come on.
Down in Mérida, Mexico, in the
Really?
Yucatan. And we slowly moved our way up. We skipped right over Florida because
Yeah.
I can't possibly live in Florida for many reasons. And then we kind of were South Carolina, Charleston, Savannah, North Carolina.
That's
and,
you.
And,
yeah.
And interestingly enough, the town that we're moving to in Maryland, Chestertown, reminded us a lot of a very, very, there's only 5,250 people in this
Oh,
town.
terrific.
Okay, but it reminded us a lot of a very small Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, nice.
It's on the Chesapeake, it's on
Yeah.
the Chester River,
Oh.
right as it opens up into the Chesapeake, and it has a huge amount of historically designated colonial homes.
Yeah.
The entire downtown is on the National Historic Registry, the entire downtown. And it's just, it really resonated with us. And, for instance, this weekend we're going down, and we will be about 45. One of our really good friends lives in Rehoboth, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And we are going to, it's her birthday weekend, and Friday and Saturday, we're going to drive just a quick hop over, and we're going to be able to celebrate her birthday rather than driving 8 hours down and staying overnight. We're going to come over from Chestertown, Maryland. So it's very convenient. Plus, with all of Tom's family and some of mine in the area, it's works out pretty well.
Oh, you'll be happy.
So,
I can tell.
It's about I feel it's interesting. It's not without regrets, because I do feel that there are so many things that I would still like to be doing here in Plymouth. The things that were left undone.
Right. There's always that.
Well, there's always that, but we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I've identified these before. So people who have listened to me, it's nothing new. I've identified existential problems or existential threats to our way of life, for lack of a better word, here in Plymouth. Okay,
but I have seen that the town manager has also identified those, and the selectmen, and what are they doing about it?
Well, that's what I would have liked to have been involved with.
Yeah.
Okay. I like to think that somehow I did have an impact in identifying, and people know once I get something on my mind, I don't shut up. Okay, that's some people like it and some people can't stand it. But
I've seen you when you're
I tend not
at your best.
I tend not to shut up. And one of those things is affordable housing.
Oh, affordable housing.
Another thing is our aquifer.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's connected to a number of things, and particularly the overdevelopment of Plymouth, the residential overdevelopment of Plymouth. because you certainly can't say that Plymouth is commercially overdeveloped.
We need commercial.
Yeah, that's been a big, the crutch of the power plant that was kicked out from under us, even though we knew eventually it was going to be kicked out from under us. We made no plans. We put nothing in place for the loss of that revenue.
But from what I understand, it's there now.
What is?
The money to buy the whole tech land.
No, it's not. That whole tech land, but that's not, okay. The power plant, 1972, December of 1972, it fired up. Okay. It started producing tax revenue, okay, pilot funds off of the power that was generated.
Right.
Okay. That money was a significant contributor to the tax base of this town.
I believe it was 10 million.
It was very significant. None of it was saved.
No, it was more than 10 million.
It was more than 10 million.
It was like 15 million.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And none of it was saved. None of it was put aside to invest in improving our commercial land so that other people, nothing was, not in my, when I look at it, nothing was done for the day when that was going to close down and all that revenue was going to go away. And here's here's an example. The Nuclear Mitigation Fund that has $8 or $9 million in it, people don't seem to remember. That was started while I was on the Finance Committee. That was started like 8 years ago. That wasn't started back in 1972.
No.
Okay, nothing was done. It was.
Those were all former selectmen.
Well,
they
whatever.
didn't do anything.
Well, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to point. All I know is the town did nothing. I don't, you know, I mean, I'm sorry. We have a town meeting form of government. Everybody is responsible. Town meeting is responsible for it. Every town meeting member over that time was responsible for it. Everybody in the administration was responsible for it, as were the select board, the planning board, anyone on any of the committees that might have something to do with it. It was obvious. Everybody knew the power plant was going to close down. And in fact, it was supposed to close down 2 years after I bought my house in 1996.
Right, but do you realize how helpless at times town meeting feels because they're only as good as the information given?
I'm not a big fan of excuses.
But that's the fact.
Their job is to represent the people in their precincts. If it means you need to dig in to the issues and you need to find out instead of waiting around for it to be served on a platter to
and
you,
do you know some of us did?
Some do.
And we were told to back off.
Well, I wasn't around for that.
I know, and we know what we're doing. The town manager and the chairman of the select board, who are not here today. But that's what we were told.
Well,
and that's what I mean, what sometimes town meeting feels helpless because their hands are tied even when they complain. And when you complain, you are called a troublemaker.
But here's the thing. Does that mean we have the right form of government for this town?
Well, that's a whole different subject. I am thinking not.
I won't be around to discuss that.
I just got elected to town meeting just for the fact is I want to make sure that my constituents are represented tax-wise and other things. I want to help the town manager and the selectmen.
Yeah, but you realize you're never going to be able to help your constituents tax-wise as long as the FinCom continues with its dysfunctional subcommittee review. That system is dysfunctional. People ask me, so are you going to drop any bombs tonight? There's one for you.
So how do we change that, Harry?
You have to get somebody or someone's on that committee with deep financial knowledge.
I've always said that, yes.
Will take a look at the process and tear it apart. Because right now what's happening is the the budget subcommittees, as well-meaning, I mean, and I'm not saying none of the people in town meeting, the people in this in the government, on the committees, everybody is well-meaning. Okay,
I believe
it's
so.
not out of malfeasance
No.
and
But
you
it's
know,
also ineptness.
I think it's I wouldn't call it ineptness as much as lack of a bigger perspective on how to get things done. But the budget subcommittees basically are the beginning of the rubber stamp to any of these groupings of departments. You sit down and you listen to them, and you really don't change or get to change all those.
So what did you put forward on the Finance Committee?
What did I put forward?
Yeah, did you realize that that was going on?
No, honestly, I really didn't until I got to the level of the select board, and I kind of stepped back from it. But I can tell you right now, I was the chair for like 3 years of the school budget subcommittee. And what I know now, I wish I would have known then, because the schools don't necessarily spend the money the way that it's easier for them to move money around than it is on the town side.
Definitely.
Let's put it that way. And they do it.
Yeah.
And and that really wasn't part of the discussions. So
So as a town meeting member, what can town meeting members do in regards standing in front of the Finance Committee? What can they say? Because it's also the process from Steve Trifoletti putting people on the Finance Committee.
Well, that's you're identifying the first step, is demanding that the people on the Finance Committee, okay, or and I've talked to people about this, and it is not necessary that people need to be, we had, for instance, at one point, one of the members of the Finance Committee along with me was I believe a managing director of the World Bank at one point. I mean, yeah, some pretty high level people show up on it. That's not the requisite. It's more about the way that you think, the way that you look at information when it comes to you, and whether you have a tendency to question it, and whether you are able to question it correctly.
I don't see it happening.
Well, that's the first thing that everybody should demand of the FinCom. That, and I'm not going to say anything about the current members or anything like that, or the past members, or the past members. I mean, but I think that it needs to be seriously addressed. Another aspect that needs to be seriously addressed is, and this has been, I know Kevin Canty was really trying to address this, the tendency of people to get on the Finance Committee and not realize how rigorous, or the amount of time.
Let's tremendous.
Say the tremendous amount of time. And then
that's why
they get through one Springtown meeting, and their significant others basically say enough is enough.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Such
So the turnover,
yeah.
the turnover, okay, because it takes, it takes time, to really learn all the intricacies of the budgetary process. In this town, it's very intricate, and it takes years, before you start to feel like you really understand it.
There was one chairman that I so admired, and his name was Anthony Shenna, and he was chairman of FinCom, and he stood up to the town, and he said, "I'm not doing that," and it was over a budget item. And town meeting paid attention to him because he had gravitas. And he worked for finance in Boston. And But that's the only one I ever saw do that. I thought Canty was pretty good, but
He's an excellent organizer.
yeah.
He's definitely an excellent organizer, and he's a very creative problem solver.
Oh, he's a
So,
problem solver,
yeah,
all
he's
right.
a very creative problem solver. So, but anyway, that's, there's a lot of things in the government that probably need, don't probably, but definitely need
But
adjustment.
I
In
see
fact,
our town manager really taking, I give him a lot of credit because he dived in and he's cleaning up a lot. And I know there still has to be done. But this type of government moves so slowly, and you just can't do it all at once.
Well, part of you identified something. This form of government moves so slowly. Okay. We're going to be at 70,000 by the next census.
Oh, I know.
Okay. It is very easy for people to look at the very rural parts of Plymouth and deny or have an issue with the following statement: we are a city.
They have a problem with it, but we have a call. Hello, you're on Talk of the Town.
Hi, Karen. I like your guest.
I know you do.
I've been waiting for you to call, Steve.
And you brought up a few good points. I was asked once to be on the Finance Committee, and I said no. And it wasn't because I didn't know the amount of work that it takes and the hours. It was because I didn't think I was qualified.
Yeah.
I think I try, but
Well,
I didn't think I would be, the best candidate, for that committee.
It wasn't
I
your
serve on other
lane.
committees, and I feel like I do a pretty good job. But you're right about the form of government. It's antiquated. It's time for it to go. It's the town meeting members, when they get their book, especially when you mention the schools. You don't understand that book you get before a town meeting. It's almost impossible to figure out what the hell it says and what the hell it is. There's so many line items. You can't follow all that. So and I think you're right. The school does move money around.
well, they do.
And unfortunately, they're autonomous. They can do whatever they want. Basically, it's up to town meeting not to give them the money.
Well, if they paid their teachers instead of administration,
Well,
that's where they put their money.
Yeah, Steve, my thing is that if anybody looks at what's happening in this town with development, okay, with the growth of this town, and denies the need for a city form of government, I would argue with them, forever. That a town form of government is not efficient, at least as constituted, okay? And maybe there could be changes, and maybe this charter committee is going to suggest some, but they're meeting twice a year. And let's be real about town meeting. It's very popular to say that the town meeting is the legislative branch. It is not. They don't create legislation. They vote on the budget, and they vote on some pieces of legislation, but they haven't created them. They're either created by the administration, by the select board, by the planning board, or by citizens, by citizen petition. Okay, the town meeting does not create legislation. They vote on it.
You're absolutely right, Harry.
So they're actually more
I'm
executive.
a town meeting member, and I don't feel
Hold
like I'm
that
part of
thought.
the system. I go to the selectmen's meetings and I listen. I go to other meetings, but there's nothing that I can do. I'm kind of like helpless. I said I listen, I get information, but there's really not much I can do with it except twice a year.
We feel
And-
helpless.
And I have to, it's me against, I got 160 something members that I have to vote against. And my vote, It's always seems to like the status quo. You know, you vote with everyone that comes across the table.
Yeah.
School committee says this. Sure, okay, we do it. Oh, they want this. Oh, okay, sure, we'll do it. There's not enough intelligent debate.
Well, there's a lot of, and there are, and this town has a lot of issues, from what I call existential to quality of life things. I mean, what is it, month and a half? 2 stabbings. Granted, one was some sort of roving serial stabber, stabber, but yet they did manage to kind of land here in Plymouth and stab a couple people. Another one was downtown, and that's not, we read about the police dealing with roving bands of 5 to 10
they were awful.
Middle schoolers in bicycles, harassing people, blocking traffic, and all that stuff. Quality of life. I don't think anybody listening is going to deny that we have a problem with people speeding in this town. Okay, we have a problem with people with modified exhaust systems in this town. They're illegal, yet they have them on not just motorcycles, not just pickups, but also on automobiles. This is quality of life. Now, is it existential? No, it's not. But it's what happens when you start transitioning out of town, out of being a town, a small town, to something that is starting to look a lot like a city. And that's what we got. And if we have city problems, we need to, in my mind, deal with them in a city manner.
You would agree we have a fabulous police force, though. I did read that they got a handle on those young boys.
Yeah, no, I think they do. But I also, they are stretched thin over 100 square miles. Okay.
They need more men.
Well, but then your taxes are going to go up.
Well, see, that's what people don't understand. And I am totally against more taxation. But people, a lot of people don't understand how big we are. And the more houses that move in, one-family homes, the more services you need.
Right. But that's not just one-family homes. That's the same with apartment buildings, like the Oasis, and that all those people need services.
What a horrible place to live.
Well,
it's 40Bs for one. The state's not helping at all. Between 40Bs and MBTA and all the unfunded mandates that the state puts forward.
Well,
we're getting screwed.
Yeah, well, Steve, it's interesting.
We really are. But I'm going to get off the phone. But before I do, Harry, I wish you, if I don't see you before you leave, I wish you and Tom the best, and I want to thank you for everything you've done and everything you've tried to do since you've been in the town.
We should all go out to dinner.
Good luck down in Maryland, and you take care.
Yeah, well, thanks, Steve.
We should all go out to dinner.
So.
Is Harry paying?
No. Hey, you can afford it.
We'll go to McDonald's, which isn't cheap anymore.
No.
So.
You really? Are we going to be able to eat in, or is it good takeout? Are we going to put on the dog and eat inside?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We could. We'll have a McDonald's picnic.
Go,
anyway, Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. But Steve just mentioned a major issue that Plymouth, unfortunately, is really suffering under, because probably for one of the reasons of when we've come of age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Plymouth for years, was a town, a large town that people knew because they sped through it on Route 3 to and from the Cape.
Yeah.
I mean, I was guilty of that. That's what I was doing when I found Manomet Point. I was shooting through Plymouth, and I got stuck in a huge traffic jam.
And
got off and looked at a map and said, I think I'll go check out Manomet Point. And my house was for sale. And that's
led there.
But I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I fell in love.
Who wouldn't?
But did I have any idea about it? No, I didn't. I was one of the people speeding through. But we've, people have said it's because the power plant's gone, and that may be it. But also, I think it's the quality of the life, all the ponds, the open space, the oceans, all that sort of stuff that make Plymouth very desirable. And people now, with working from home or in retirement, you don't have to be as close to Boston. But he mentioned the state and 40B and the MBTA communities.
Yeah.
And though the state is something that this town has to wrap its brain around when they talk about, when all the citizens, all the residents talk about the overdevelopment. Okay. We live in a state that feels free to interfere with our local zoning.
Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned to you before the show that Chestertown, where we're moving, has 5,250 people in it. And it's had 5,250 people in it for the last 100 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. That is because the state of Maryland does not interfere with local zoning. Massachusetts, through 40B and now the MBTA, will override allows developers to override your local zoning. And at the same time, we live in a state that believes that the most important thing for the state of Massachusetts is developing residential housing, that we do not have enough housing for people.
We don't have enough truly affordable housing.
Well, I would say that. I definitely agree. But let's be real here. 40B
is not affordable.
Is not that affordable housing that's required to be 40B is 80% AMI.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nothing in terms of, you're still talking about a one-bedroom apartment for $1,800.
Small, very small.
Very
apartment.
small, one-bedroom apartment, $1,800.
People on top of each other.
Yeah. So, it's, 40B is not a solution for affordable housing.
Oh, no.
It's, in my mind, it's lip service to affordable housing. But what it does do is it allows the state to pat itself on the back and say, not only are we creating more housing, which we need for everybody, we are also creating more affordable housing.
No, they're not.
They're not. Not in my mind. I mean, that's my opinion. And I've got a lot of them, and I clearly don't have a problem expressing them. But the reality of the state's meddling in
that's bad.
Their perceived need that and they will, in my mind, and I tell people this, I think the state's number one priority is more housing over anything, over environment, over anything, over education, over taxes, over anything.
It is.
That is their major
They're
focus.
pushing that way.
That is their major focus. And they're willing to interfere in local zoning. Okay, that's a reality that all of the people who are concerned about the development, the overdevelopment, the huge development that is going on in this town, absolutely must understand. It's a reality. Okay, you can't deny realities and come up with solutions that will work. If you stick your head in the sand and ignore realities, you will not create solutions that actually will function.
But you and Steve Bulletin did create a solution.
Well, we believe that we've created a solution.
Why don't you explain it?
Well, this is actually something that kind of came in my mind over a couple of years. Okay. And it came to clarity in my mind about 2 years ago. And it involved Patrick Flaherty's environmental task force. They came to the select board, I was new on the select board, with 4 or 5 policies, suggested policies that they wanted the select board to agree to,
Mhm.
sort of like conceptual policies.
Right.
And one of them was committing to, and it's, people will argue different things, but it was a major commitment by the select board to support the purchase of land for open space beyond what we were currently doing. It was sort of like turbocharging our purchase.
Open space.
For open space. Okay. Now,
that's what the CPC does.
It does. And in their proposal, their concept, their policy, the funding source that was mentioned for this turbocharging of purchase of open space was the CPC. That was it. It wasn't additional taxes. It wasn't among them. It was that the CPC would be the funding source. Okay. And of course, because I'm the jerk that I am, in the meeting, asked Bill Cohen to come up and I questioned him on how much was he willing to guarantee percentage-wise out of the total of funding that we get on a yearly basis that would go to open space.
Now, wait a minute. You asked Bill Cohen, and he's speaking for himself or the CPC?
I think he was speaking for the CPC, and he refused to commit.
Right.
So here I am. I'm presented with a policy that says that the CPC is going to be the funding source. And the chair of the CPC is refusing to commit a certain percentage. And basically saying, I'm only one member of the CPC, and I can understand that.
Right.
Yet, how did CPC get into that document to be mentioned as the funding source?
I don't know. How?
Do you think that Patrick Flaherty's group didn't go to Bill Cohen and ask him? I really doubt that. So I've got this thing that's saying, this policy I need to vote on.
But privately, he said.
I don't know what he said privately. I have no idea what he said privately.
How did it get on paper?
It got on paper. I don't know how it got on paper. But do you really think that a group that Patrick Flaherty, who is noted for dotting his I's and crossing his T's, okay? Patrick Flaherty is everything about organized, okay? Do you think that group didn't go to the CPC?
They
didn't go to Bill Cohen?
They went to Bill Cohen.
I'm left to assume that. So because I agree with the idea, okay, because existentially, we are living on top of our water supply. This massive development that's going on, okay, is going to sooner or later impact our aquifer, okay? The groups that are concerned about the sand removal and everything are absolutely correct. It is a problem, okay? It's a major, major problem. If we pollute our aquifer, we might as well just lock the doors and leave, okay? The aquifer is existential. It is about our existence as a town. It's our water supply, okay? So I totally agree with the concept that the Environmental Task Force came to, but I'm like, okay, we're going to have this policy, but we have no funding for it. And that made me realize, well, how do you get funding for something like this that doesn't end up being on the taxpayers? And it's like we're sitting looking, we're in proximity of two really good examples of that. Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. They've had land banks for years that they use to buy up land for open space.
Don't you think we have enough open space?
I don't think given that we're on our aquifer and given what I'm seeing going on with these huge developments, I mean, 332 apartments at the Oasis.
Harry,
I mean, those are huge.
It's not sustainable to make everything into open space. The town cannot develop. They can't have economic development come in.
Well,
you tie your hands. I mean, everything can't be open space.
But here's no, everything can't be open space. And the proposal that Steve and I have developed, and we've worked with, David Golden, we've worked with Kevin Canty on it, is actually goes a little bit beyond what Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket's do. Theirs is open space. Ours also addresses one other existential issue in this town is affordable housing. We have all of this housing being built, and very little of it, relatively speaking, is affordable housing. And yet we have our major industry is the tourist industry. Okay, the people who work day in, day out, waiting tables, working in the hotels, okay, servicing the tourists, don't make a lot of money, not by a long shot. Okay, a lot of them, and I hazard to say most of them, probably work in 2 jobs. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they're probably part-time employees at both of them. They have no benefits. They get no benefits. They have lousy wages, and they're living in a town that they can't afford to
Okay,
rent
so
an apartment.
talk to me about a real affordable housing, like Red Brook did.
Yeah.
They did real affordable housing. Some of that is $500 a month
Yeah.
for a beautiful place.
It can be done, but it takes partnership.
Yes.
And it also takes
It's public-private.
Yeah, but look at what Red Brook did to help facilitate it. Some people will say it wasn't enough, whatever. I won't argue that.
Well, they're coming
what
back.
They did, but what they did, they gave them the land.
Right.
They did the site development.
Right.
Okay, that's a major,
It was a leg up.
That's a major leg up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that and I won't be around for the debate. I'll be long gone. My house closes on the 26th of June, and after that, we're headed
Harry.
south permanently.
Okay.
There are going to be people who say a land bank is great, but I want it to be all open space.
Right.
Okay. I would say to those people, because of the affordable housing component, which is, as I believe, an existential problem, look at the Cape.
Oh, yeah.
They can't get people to work there because nobody can afford to live there.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's happening here.
Well, it's happening here, but we're not there yet. So if we refuse to learn from the communities on the Cape that are few years ahead of us, and we just stick our heads in the sand and don't realize that housing affordability is an existential threat to the fabric of life in Plymouth, we're sticking our heads in the sand. Okay, so to people who would say the land bank is great, but it should be only for open space. What about the Benny's Plaza? It's for sale. It is the perfect spot for affordable housing. It is downtown. It is right where our tourist industry is centered. It is right where all of these people work. Okay. It's Red Brook demonstrated that it's a private public partnership using state, using federal, using the private, land grant and all that. That's how this comes together. It's not as if somebody spends $11 million, okay, and decides that, I'm going to do truly affordable housing at 30 and 60% AMI because I'm a really nice person. Doesn't work that way.
No.
Okay.
That land down in Cedarville, that's a sin.
Which
that's for sale.
Oh, the Camp Borndale?
Camp
Well, there's another example.
Yeah.
That's not open space. But if we had a land bank, we could buy that and keep it as a camp with a partnership. Okay, once again, it's not open space. Remember, open space has constraints on about what can be on it.
Oh, CPC has many constraints.
Well, if it's open space, there can't be any buildings on it.
And look at what's in Manamet there, the house. Oh my God, it just went up.
Symes House?
Symes House.
You forgot the name of that?
Yeah, I forgot. I think on purpose. I mean, I think the best thing that can happen to it is be hit by lightning and get the insurance.
Well, that would, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Big problem.
Symes is a problem. I mean, and that's, you know, there are a lot of problems. You know, I like to focus on what I call the existential problems. Our aquifer, the overdevelopment of this town that is destroying the fabric and also will eventually destroy our aquifer. And, you know, and also water is another issue. One of the things about the land bank, it would enable purchase of land, okay, and the land bank could give it to the town for a well. If you have things that are in open space, you can't put a well on them.
Talk about the funding of this land bank.
It would be through a 2% charge on a real estate transaction.
Okay.
It is not a tax. It is a fee.
Okay, now people are screaming. Say what is exempt.
Oh, well, what would be exempt? First of all, that 2% would be paid by the buyer, not the seller.
Yes.
So so keep in mind, the seller is a resident of Plymouth. That's the land bank's Plymouth. It's nowhere else.
Right.
So the seller's a resident. They don't have to pay that, but there would be exemptions. Okay. A buyer would not have to pay it if they are a first-time buyer. The buyers who would have the most problem coming up with that additional money at closing, okay, are exempt from it. So first-time buyers are exempt.
People like me who want to give the house to the children, I am exempt.
You're exempt.
And if they tear down the house and build another one, they are exempt.
Yeah, the land bank has nothing to do with the transaction. The real estate transactions are the funding source. Okay, what that person who buys the property or it transfers to does with it is a whole different thing. Now, before I forget, think about this. A developer buys 40 acres. They have to pay the transfer tax.
Do we have 40 acres?
Well, whatever. Let's just, I don't know. Let's use that as an example. They have to, okay, so right now, impact fees are not legal in the state of Massachusetts.
Right.
We can't charge a developer, well, here, here we want this much money because of the impact on our schools.
Like people say, don't have anybody else move in. We don't want anybody, and you can't do that.
You can't do it.
You can't do that. It's against the Constitution.
So what you have to do, the idea is, if you have a land bank, they can go in, say there's 40 acres open, okay? The seller of those 40 acres has a developer who wants to buy it, who's going to pay them market rate
for each acre?
For each acre, for the total 40 acres. So we're going to pay you $10 million.
Yeah.
Which would be the market rate for this 40 acres, let's say.
And
okay, right now,
2% of that.
We don't have the ability. Can you tell me the CPC can walk in there and say, we know that developer has it?
We don't have the money.
We don't have the money. A land bank would have that money. So what happens in the situation with the land bank? The land bank comes in, offers the resident who is selling the land market value.
The full market value.
The full market value. So we are not taking the land. We are not begging for the land. We are in competition with the developer, and we have the money to go to them and to the people who are selling it and say, not only will you get market rate, but it's going to go into the land bank.
You're giving an extra 2%. The person buying it.
No, the person buying it. The land bank wouldn't pay an extra 2%.
No, the person.
A person or a developer buying that piece of property would have to pay the land bank. So developers would actually be paying money into the land bank to allow the land bank to compete against them to buy additional land in the future. So basically what's happening is that it is a impact fee. Okay, but let's get back to the residents. Okay. One of the other exempt groups, and there are several, are people who live in Plymouth and want and own in Plymouth. Okay, so they're not first-time buyers, and they are either buying to a larger house or a smaller house. Doesn't matter.
And they're going to Plymouth.
Within Plymouth.
Yeah, which a lot do.
So if you've got a house and your family's growing and you need a bigger house, you are exempt, and you buy a house in Plymouth, you stay in Plymouth, you remain a resident, you remain part of the fabric of this town, you are exempt. And it doesn't impact the seller. The seller doesn't lose any money in this. This is all about the buyer paying. So there are important exemptions for this.
I know there are more, but I forget them.
Yeah, there are more.
There are more.
And I just encourage people, as you hear about the land bank, to, ask questions. If you want to, there's a wonderful executive summary that's been sent out and about. Get a hold of it. It's on Steve Bulletin's website. The entire proposal, which is big, okay? It's, because the process is not just, hey, let's have a land bank town meeting, will you agree to it? Okay, it's the legislation, because it's a home rule petition.
Oh, it goes to the State House.
The legislation has been written.
Ah.
It will be available, and that will answer people's questions. Do I expect everybody to agree? No, not at all. I don't expect everybody to agree. I will say to those who don't agree, what's your solution? As I mentioned before the airing started, on my way here, the radio was on, and a song by Crowded House came on, and one of the lyrics is trying to catch the deluge in a paper cup.
In a paper cup.
We have a deluge. If you don't like this, fine. Come up with one that isn't a paper cup. The town, we need to stop sticking our heads in the sand. We've done it for too long. That's why we have the problem that we have now, because nobody thought this would ever happen to Plymouth. Well, it's happening. It's here, and it will continue unless we stop it. And we cannot do a housing moratorium.
It's illegal.
Well, you can. Okay, but so for instance, people look at West Plymouth with that water issue.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, couldn't we have a housing moratorium? Yes, you can. But to get it, you have to prove to the state, you have to demonstrate to the state how you're going to fix the problem and when. And that's how long the moratorium lasts. You can't just say, we don't have enough water in Plymouth. We're on 3 billion gallons of water. We have plenty of water. It's just that our infrastructure is not sufficient. And I can tell you right now, the state is not going to allow Plymouth to get away with claiming, well, our lousy infrastructure is the reason that we have to have a building moratorium. Because if they let Plymouth do that, they are going to have to let every other town do that, because every town has lousy infrastructure.
Now, this could also go to purchase the Holtec land.
Well, that's going to be part of it. I mean, the Holtec land is, depending upon who you talk to, is worth $30 to $50 million right now. Okay. And they're not selling it right now.
Right.
Okay. So let's say they get around to it in 10 years. Okay. If you read The Independent today, you saw that right now, the median house price in Plymouth,
it's outrageous,
is $800,000.
We need economic development.
Well, okay.
Commercial.
That commercial development won't stop residential development. Okay.
We need balance,
well,
Harry.
I agree with you. I mean, and I said it. I said it years ago. We need to, and it's actually why I was planning to run for planning board. You know, people were like, "Why are you moving from the select board to the planning board?" It was because the things that I think are most important to the town and its future, policy comes from the planning board. For instance, zoning. Part of our problem is, I think, our commercial zoning. The zoning of our current commercial land needs to be evaluated and changed.
That's what the town manager
Highway
says.
commercial. Why do we need more retail?
Right.
Get rid of highway commercial.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, but you know, I know some people are proponents of this. I am not. I am not a proponent of rezoning residential property to commercial. I think we have enough. I just don't think we're using it correctly. I think we need to go through what we have and work on zoning it correctly, the commercial land. I mean, it's part and parcel to something we talked about earlier with the loss of the revenue from the power plant was never replaced.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they thought it was going to last forever, Harry.
I guess they did. Nothing ever lasts forever.
Right.
Okay, but anyway, that's, you know, yes, commercial is, you know, people, I'm sure people are tired of hearing me say it. I did enough research when I was thinking about this that the studies that I've read, okay, several studies from like Harvard and other universities and policy institutes, basically about 30% or more of your tax revenues should be coming from commercial.
Oh, yes.
Ours is like 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the backs of the homeowner.
So everything that happens.
And the small businessman.
Everything that happens is on the backs of residential.
Yeah.
The residential taxpayer. So, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So we're moving, huh?
Well, yeah, we are. We're moving on. A new life adventure. Tom and I are very excited about this.
I know.
There's a lot of really good things for us, so we're happy.
I wish you the very best, the both of you.
Thank you.
I love you both.
Yeah, we love you.
And I want you to be happy and do what you want to do.
That's why we're doing this.
Oh, I love
That's why we're doing it.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot.